This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects. The BS Report. The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report, taping this on a Thursday afternoon, running it over the weekend. Pete Berg is back. Second appearance of the BS Report this fall, winter.
You said you would have me back, and you were a man of your word.
Well, you showed me your new movie. You showed the whole Grantland staff.
I did.
We loved it. It's coming out soon. It's coming out in 2 cities on December 24th to become eligible for the Oscars.
Yep.
But then it comes out in January.
Yes.
Everywhere.
January 10th everywhere. Yeah.
And the feedback has been good.
Feedback has been very, very, very good so far. Knock wood.
Last time you came on, we didn't really talk about the movie because it was really far away and we couldn't really talk about it. Yeah. But this time and now, it seems like people know what it's about for the most part, right? I don't feel like we're spoiling. I don't want to spoil it, but I mean, it's basically a war movie.
It's a war movie, and the title is Lone Survivor, so there's an inherent spoiler probably in the title. But we were nervous when we showed it to you guys. You were amongst the first, non-film kind of industry that we had seen it to, the first media group that we had shown it to. So we were nervous. We didn't know how you guys would react, and y'all were pretty stoic.
We didn't know it was a war movie. Well, only like 2 of us did.
You thought it was a romantic comedy?
I thought it was like Taylor Kitsch and Emil Hirsch, like in the mountains, like somebody got lost and they lost their trail guide.
Like Brokeback Mountain kind of a thing?
I don't know. I just thought it was like dudes on a camping trip or something.
Really? Were you really caught off guard?
I had no idea it was a war movie.
Because you looked a little rattled afterwards.
It's an intense movie. Yeah. It's not a comedy.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's. I don't want to say it's a dark movie, but it's an emotional movie. It's intense.
Well, it's a true story of a Navy SEAL operation from 2006 where these 4 guys were inserted up high into the mountains in northern Afghanistan by Pakistan, and they were told to go try and find the Taliban leader, one of bin Laden's bad guys.
That's it. Don't say anymore.
Yeah, well, it's that simple.
That's the plot.
That's the story.
But most importantly, Riggins is back. You saved Riggins' career.
Is that most important?
It really is, unless you win the Oscar or something.
Why is that the most important?
Because I love Riggins. I'm so glad he's back. Riggins is redeemed.
Riggins was never gone.
Okay, good.
Riggins was never gone.
It does show you how fickle the whole Hollywood actor-actress system is.
Yes.
It all depends on what you're supporting. It's a little bit like Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
Who's taking a lot of heat right now because he's playing with J.R. Smith and Andrea Bragnani.
But wasn't he playing with all those guys last year?
No, well, last year he had a skinny Raymond Felton. He had J.R. Smith, who was sane for whatever reason.
Right.
So it's like you never know year to year. But it's intense. It gave me I told you this, it gave me the same feeling I had when I first saw Saving Private Ryan and nobody moved in the theater after, which is a good sign for your movie. You never if it's an intense movie, you don't want people to get up right away and leave. You want them to sit there in the seat and kind of mull over what just happened.
Yeah, we seem to be able to keep people still, quiet, and off their cell phones for at least 3.5 minutes.
That's excellent.
I mean, which is pretty
very high number.
If you go to a film today, it's like when you land on an airplane and the second the wheels touch the ground, just everybody's reaching for their phones like junkies, really,
right.
like crack addicts. And it's the same thing in a movie theater. The second they feel released from a film, your audience will reach for their phones. And we've observed, we seem to be at about almost a 3-minute average before people start reaching. So we're using that as a gauge.
Sounds like Bill James that's a stat he should keep track of or something.
Well, you got to come up with new ways to understand and analyze an audience's reaction. And time spent not on the phone is.
Well, don't you think when I know I do this when I'm home, I have my iPad out all the time.
Yeah.
I watch TV, but I have my iPad there. And my wife's always like, you're not watching. I'm like, I'm totally watching, but I'm doing 2 things at once. So my brain is just trained to always do 2 things at once.
And you probably have your phone pretty close by, too. I have my phone
here in case somebody emails or texts me. So I got 3 things going.
And your laptop's not at all around?
It'll be iPad or laptop. I never go both. That would be weird. So, and then sometimes I'll be in my little office and I have 4 TVs going. I have 4 basketball games on. So 4 basketball games, iPad, cell phone.
Right.
But the movie theater is one of the only places you can go to where you have to shut all that stuff out. And it is rude. If you pull out your cell phone, then the glare from the phone comes out. You're being rude to the people around.
Sure.
You're kind of forced to pay attention.
Yeah, but I mean, I see it all the time. I mean, I've seen, we've showed the film to, we were talking about earlier, so a bunch of football teams.
Yeah.
And the first thing the coaches have said to us, Shanahan said it with the Redskins, and Coach Fox said it in Denver. He said it's the first time he's seen his players not on the. I don't want to out the players and give them a bad rap as far as seeing
Peyton
films.
Manning.
Well, and I'll bet Peyton's not the guy, but he did say, and he didn't say who, generally when they show films to the team, those lights are on. People are on their phones throughout most of the film. And except for Lone Survivor, nobody reached for a phone. So he said that was the highest compliment he could pay us.
So you've shown it to like 5 or 6 NFL teams and a bunch of college teams.
We've shown it to, and we're trying now to gauge, I don't think we're doing particularly well with a lot of these teams. We showed it to the Redskins.
Oh, no. You ruined their season.
I'm not prepared to take full responsibility for that, but
maybe they saw the camaraderie in the movie and took a look in the mirror and said, we don't have that.
Okay. We showed it to the Cowboys, and I still, as a Giants fan, I finally, I'm allowing myself to root for Tony Romo. I can't stand to see this happen. So I'm hoping that they somehow
sympathetic.
I mean, I really do feel for the guy, and we did show the film to the Cowboys, and it's interesting. DeMarcus Ware went nuts at the end of the film, started screaming at the players that, he said, you sit around and worry about your injuries and your girlfriends and your paychecks, and there's men out there dying for this country, and what's wrong with you all? And he was swearing and and screaming. It was really intense. And then he went out. I'm a Giants fan, and the first game of the season, Eli's first pass of the season, if you remember, pick. Yeah. DeMarcus Ware, and I'm thinking he never should have shown the Cowboys.
He should have waited until after, yeah.
But yeah, so we're not quite sure whether the film had a good effect on the Cowboys. I still maintain they're going to make the playoffs. Showed it to the Cleveland Browns. We never thought much would happen there. That was just sort of we just wanted to make friends with Cleveland.
Smart move.
We showed it to Peyton Manning and the Broncos, and we're happy with the success they've had, and we're happy to take that. Patriots Friday, but our biggest success story was showing it to Florida State the night before the Clemson game, and they destroyed Clemson in Clemson, biggest margin of victory ever. Check my stats on that in that division. And the coach said in the press conference afterwards that he didn't have to do a lot of talking to the team because they'd seen the film.
Wow.
And they were all fired up. So that was a good one. And also the Panthers, Cam Newton saw it, and we're happy to take credit for that. So when a team does well, we're happy to take credit. When they don't, we've got a plethora of excuses.
I like my excuse that it causes a team to look within, and either they like what they see or they don't. But either way, it's a come to Jesus moment. I'm interested to see what it does for the Pats. I would argue the Pats need to see this movie more than just about anybody. They've had so many different things happen to them. They have great teamwork.
Well, I mean that is like the no BS kind of theme that the coaches have talked about. And Marcus Luttrell's book was sold millions of copies ever before we made a film, and it's undeniably got that brotherhood team. We are stronger together than we are alone theme, which coaches love. Obviously coaches are always looking for ways to motivate and inspire and get their teams to gel, and I have no idea whether a movie can do that, but
is it true that you've filmed deleted scenes just for arena jumbotrons? That's not true, is it?
Pardon me?
Stuff like the characters, and then we got to play some defense in this fourth quarter.
No, we haven't done that.
I keep waiting for a director to do that.
Oh, I'm sure they've done it.
Specifically steer movie scenes for arenas and fans.
I think they've done. I mean, I've certainly seen coaches' speeches from films, right?
All the time.
Go on but no, I haven't. I mean, that, with a film like Lone Survivor, 19 soldiers were killed, and this is real, and it really happened. So generally, we shy away from pretty aggressive, marketing tie-ins.
I'm trying to think, is there like an inspirational speech in the? There is a couple inspirational moments.
Yeah, there's some moments. I mean,
a couple Oscar speeches.
I'm not quite sure they're Oscar speeches. They're not.
They have those moments, right?
Yeah, I mean, Navy SEALs aren't really big on speaking,
Right.
giving speeches, particularly when they're getting shot up,
Right.
which obviously they are in Lone Survivor. So we tried to keep the speechifying down a bit. We found like from talking to Marcus Luttrell and so many SEALs about, asking them, what do you talk about when you're in the middle of a gunfight? What do you talk about after you've been shot 5 times and broken 4 bones? Right. Is there conversation going on? And Marcus talks a lot about the joking they would do. And he said that the last film that they saw as a team before they went out, I sort of spent so much time with Marcus, I started asking him anything I could think of. And one of the questions I asked him was, what was the last movie you guys saw? Because I know they watch so many films together. That's a big part of what SEALs and soldiers do on deployment. They're bored a lot. And he said the last film they saw, which they saw the night before they went out, was Anchorman.
Wow.
And he said that while they were getting shot, Mike Murphy just kept looking at them and saying, I want to be on you. I want to be on you, Marcus. I want to be on you. And which obviously is a Ron Burgundy quote for anyone that doesn't know. And I told Will Ferrell that. And he was very touched. And in the beginning of the film, there's an autographed picture to Mike Murphy from Ron Burgundy that we got from Will. And little things like that you don't think about as, in our business that, Anchorman was the last film this platoon of soldiers watched before they all went out and got killed. And I find that pretty touching. And I know Will was visibly touched when we told him that.
I know you're like a maniac about attention to detail, and especially like if you feel like you're telling the story of a certain group of people that you did this with the football.
Yeah.
Navy SEALs, like, did you just feel like you had everything had to be like perfect 100% to a crazy way?
I did. I mean, this film was a bit different than anything I'd ever worked on. Friday Night Lights had a little bit of it because it was about, a real 1988 football team in Texas. And, those guys really existed. So, I had to, meet them, and it was a pleasure to meet them and get to know them and try and capture the reality of their world. Lone Survivor, like I said, 19 guys were killed.
Yeah.
They all have moms and dads and brothers and a bunch of widows, and some of them had kids. I knew they were all going to see the film, and these people are very no-nonsense. They're going to let you know very clearly whether they think you got it right or whether you didn't get it right, and they would not be shy about voicing their displeasure. So I knew I had them. I knew I had the whole Navy SEAL community, which is equally opinionated and have a very specific way of doing things. And
not a community you'd want to really
no, not
get on the bad side
top on, like probably the last community you would ever want to have hate you.
Yeah.
And they're extremely opinionated. And if they were unhappy with what we had done, I would be feeling it, probably literally. And then, of course, when we have Marcus Luttrell, who's this 6'7" Texas survivor who you don't want to piss off. And so, I knew we had all of these different groups. In addition to film critics and entertainment reporters and the movie-going audience, I knew that we had to work a little extra hard to at least make it feel as though we'd paid our respect, and that I, as a filmmaker, had done everything I could, including I went to Iraq for a month and lived in a small outpost with a platoon of SEALs. I lived there for a month with those guys just so I could try and get it as right as possible.
Did like some of those battle scenes in the mountain, which were just super detailed, and I can't even imagine, like, how long did some of those scenes just take to do? Like 2-3 weeks? Yeah,
there's a gunfight. One of the things I responded to when I read Marcus's book was, it's so hard for us. We're all so busy. Everybody's, got a zillion things going on. We're texting. We're on our phones. We're emailing. We're very busy. The news cycle's so fast. It's really hard to let any single news story stick, right? You read that something horrible happened here, and the next thing you know, Kanye West got in a fist fight in an airport, and they're both equally kind of relevant stories, and that's just the way life is today. And so when you hear that 4 guys were killed in Iraq, it's very hard as a a citizen of this country to really process what that means. And what I found is that Luttrell did a great job in his book in describing this. Not only the gunfight, there's a lot of other things that happened before and after the gunfight, but this gunfight they got into that was just as horrific and violent and brutal as anything you could imagine. He made me just basically sit down, shut up, turn off my phone, and be with these men as they fought and as they died. And it struck me as, like, without trying to get, all patriotic and heavy, it really I was very aware that, like, it is kind of, I believe, our responsibility as guys that get to enjoy all the great things of this country to understand that, if we send men like Marcus Luttrell to fight, well, they're going to fight. And we have a responsibility, I think, to kind of at least know that that's happening, pay attention to it. And if you support it, then you should support those guys and love those guys and help them and do everything you can to make sure that when they're there, they're protected, their families are looked after. And if you don't support it, you think Afghanistan's a horrible war, well, then do something about it. But to just sort of sit and kind of go between a basketball game, a news report, and a Kardashian story, I found that to be, I found myself to be guilty of that, and I found that to be kind of unacceptable for me. And so in filming this fight, this is a long answer, in filming this gunfight, we wanted to get it right because Luttrell really took us into the experience of what it was like for these men on that hill. So we worked really hard. We spent 3 months breaking that gunfight into maybe like 30 different little sub-moments, which is kind of how that fight was, and treating each one of those elements of the fight as its own mini movie and having production meetings and working with our camera guys and our stunt guys and our prop guys to be able to go up on that mountain. Because once you're up on that mountain, you don't get a second chance, and the weather comes in, the light goes, you got to get it right. So it was the prep where we really got it right. And we wanted to get it right so that the audience could have that same experience that everybody had reading the book.
How many actors could have played the Mark Wahlberg part?
Well, you're not an actor, but you definitely could have played it.
I appreciate that.
There's a Navy SEAL ethos inside of you, Bill.
I appreciate that.
So I'll leave you out.
Leave me out. Because that's like a movie star part, and it's also there's a lot of stuff that went into it. I actually thought it was his best movie, and I think he certainly had a better career than I expected. And he's kind of hung around. He's hung around now. We're at like the 2-decade mark with him. Yeah,
Mark's crafty. He's a
but you have to be a hero.
Yes.
You have to be believable as somebody who could be on that mountain and be able to fight any sort of physical challenge. You have to have something that would make me want to root for you. When you think about it, there's just not a lot of actors that there's some checklist that's got 10 check marks on it. He hit most of them. Yeah, I think Damon could have played that part.
Yeah, Matt could have done it. I think that what's unique about Wahlberg and a lot of guys don't have, it's kind of like there's a physicality to him. You believe him. He's a tough guy. But half of this film, Luttrell was scared out of his mind. He was beat to shit. He was scared. He was broken. And he was very vulnerable.
You have to be scared but not seem like a pussy, which is a tough line.
And and any reasonable man would be scared in that situation. Yeah. And I think Mark Wahlberg has that. If you spend time with Mark, it does have that kind of duality. Yeah. There's a toughness there. There's also a real kind of sweetness to the guy.
Yeah.
And it sort of all exists.
That's the Massachusetts.
I guess. I mean, certainly on paper, a 6'6" Marcus Luttrell with a deep Southern accent from South Houston, and Mark Wahlberg with his Boston accent.
Yeah.
You couldn't find two guys that physically, on first glance, were less like each other. But Wahlberg really captured that tough but vulnerable quality that Luttrell had and described as having in the book.
Not a lot of 6'6" actors you could have cast for that, since everyone in Hollywood is 6'1" and under.
No, you know who looked?
Tim Robbins, maybe.
The actor that actually looked the most like Luttrell. Oh shit! He was in that vampire movie, Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Wow, I never saw that one. So you thought about hiring Abe Lincoln, vampire guy?
He looked like, of all the guys I met, he just on pure physical.
Yeah.
He's tall. I can't remember his name. Jesus. He's a very nice guy. Good actor. I'm going to get in trouble for not remembering his name.
That's all right. He won't take it personally.
Very good actor.
Yeah.
He looked the part,
yeah.
But, at the end of the day, Mark Wahlberg's still Mark Wahlberg.
Right. Yeah. Was there anybody else, like, if he didn't do it, who was going to do it? Or did you always know it was going to be?
There was always Mark. I mean, from he was the first guy that I went to. He again, I've known him for a while. I really did think he had the right qualities.
Yeah.
And he helped get the money, and that's Mark's a producer. Mark's a real businessman, and he loves to act, and he also loves the business side of it. And he was a great partner to me. He helped. He did his job. He played the hell out of that role, and he also made sure that we had the money, which was.
Your movie before this was Battleship, which you spent a lot of time on, was expensive.
Yes.
I don't think, did it lose money?
I think at the end of the day, it probably did lose some money.
You took some shit for it.
Took a few shots for Battleship.
It's been a while since you had taken some tags.
It's a business that I've always said you're gonna get hit.
Right.
And it's unavoidable. And Battleship was something that clearly didn't work out. If anybody could tell you why a film really knew what they were talking about, could ever tell you exactly why a film works or why a film doesn't work, they'd be probably the richest human being alive.
So what'd you learn from the experience?
I think the biggest takeaway for me was not to get involved in a film that I don't have a deep connection to on an emotional and creative level. And so, you can make big films, you can make little films, you can go make commercials, you can make, music videos. You can do anything you want. If you don't have an emotional and a real visceral connection, it's probably going to come out one way or another. I shot an Under Armour commercial like 2 years ago, and it was with Cam Newton and Tom Brady. It was the first time those guys ever met, and we filmed them meeting for the first time. And then there's this whole commercial where they're both in it, and Cam Newton asked Brady could you give me one piece of advice? It was kind of a cool moment. We captured it on film, and Brady said, I'm not really big on advice. And I was just kind of watching this exchange, and Cam said, "Come on, man, just give me just one piece of advice." And Tom said, well, he thought about it. He said, okay, if you ever walk onto a football field and you don't have butterflies in your stomach and your heart's not pounding and your eyes aren't wide and you don't have that excited, youthful experience that you had the first time you ever really walked onto a field, so get off the field and don't come back on until you can feel that. And that was interesting, and it's kind of true. I think I think it should be true of any profession. But if you're lucky enough to be in a business like filmmaking, you really need to be personally connected and have a real appreciation and love for what you're doing. Otherwise, it's probably not going to work out quite the way you want it to.
And unfortunately, a lot of times people make movies for not that reason. They make them because a giant paycheck was their way, or they wanted to work.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, sometimes it's not even a giant paycheck. It's just like, you got a filmmaker with 3 kids and a wife and a mortgage, and, everyone's wearing braces, and there's a couple of private schools and a summer camp, and, hey, you don't have the luxury of picking. But, for me, generally, my kid's out of braces now. I can, hopefully for the next, I don't know, as long as I can make films, look for films like Lone Survivor, like Friday Night Lights.
You just have to support your kid and Joe Blake, and that's it. Those are your two.
Yeah, Joe Blake's a problem.
People.
I mean, he's really turning into a problem because his expectation, if anybody wants to help Joe Blake, help him out. I mean,
please adopt this guy, for God's sake.
It's just so expensive now.
It really is.
I mean, I'm like his poorest friend.
Yeah.
He's got some really, really rich friends.
That's the thing people don't understand with celebrities. So you make friends with somebody who has champagne taste, and it's tough to keep up.
Yeah, well, if anybody has a job for Joe Blake. You're awesome. I don't know, maybe Danny Kelly will help him.
You took Battleship, though, because you just wanted to do an awesome big budget movie, right? I mean, you were just kind of intrigued by what it would be like to do a summer blockbuster.
I mean, here's part of it. First of all, we were
not defending you. I'm just that was the reason I remember.
There were a couple of reasons. I mean, I was going to do Lone Survivor, and we were all set. We were moving for Lone Survivor, and the studio asked me if I would do Battleship first and then do Lone Survivor. And Battleship was just kind of a pretty rough idea at the time, so I should have paid more attention to the fact that we didn't. And you know, I had just come off of Hancock, and that was an incredible success. And it was really fun to make a film like Hancock with Will Smith, and we were traveling around the world, and the film made a ton of money, and the film was, you know, relatively well reviewed.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I was happy with the reviews, but it was a really fun experience, and I liked making. I call those like super movies because you go and you see you're in a theater in Tokyo, and there's, you know, some 85-year-old Japanese grandparents watching it, and they're loving it. And the next week you're in Rio, and you're a bunch of teenagers in Rio are watching it, and it just has this global phenomenon. And I really like that. And I got caught up, and it actually kind of seemed easy to me. Now, I had Will Smith, who is playing a great role for himself in that. I had a Vince Gilligan script that had been developed for years. I had Charlize Theron and Jason Bateman and all kinds of things that lots of things that I sort of, when Battleship was presented, I kind of maybe discounted just how helpful like a great script could be, really good actors could be. You know, the script had been around for 4 or 5 years, so there was some DNA, there was some foundation.
But you'd had some success, so you'd think, it'll be fine, I'll make it.
That's right. And so I'm much that I won't do that again. I certainly don't discount the importance of having a great script, and having some time to let something develop. Let a project. You know, Lone Survivor took me 4.5 years to get made. Friday Night Lights, the film, was another 4.5 years and Buzz Bissinger had written a great book before then, so. It's very, very. It's very hard to create something that has no inherent DNA, and do it quickly and just get up and get going.
I think you need to take it easy on yourself with the next movie. Do you know what the next movie is?
Well, I kind of do, and
can't you just make like some up indie movie where some college professor has an affair with a student and it costs like $350,000?
Well,
no, and she turns out she's got a drug problem. It's like one of those movies like Mark Ruffalo would have made in 2001.
Well, make
one of those movies.
I could. I kind of like joke and say I want to go south of France in the summer, like a love story, young couple.
South of France is a little ambitious. Go to like Utica.
Well, I want to go somewhere pretty and relaxing and comfortable and quiet, and it doesn't have like just more testosterone and Navy SEALs and football players and guns and explosions and the fist fights that break out on my sets.
What was that movie? Vince Vaughn did that movie with his buddy where it was like a couple's on a tropical location.
Yes,
and they did it just so they could be on a tropical vacation for 3 months.
They were all in like
couples retreat.
Bora Bora.
Like that.
Couples retreat. Like
that
let's go to Bora Bora. I'm like, are you kidding? And they did it. Yeah.
For 3 months, they're in Bora Bora. Maybe that's what you should do.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't think that's in the cards for me. I keep saying I'm going to do it, and I keep finding, pretty aggro stories.
Or something like maybe Japan, like Black Rain. Remake Black Rain.
Yeah, but it's a great movie. But that's not
Black Rain.
That's not mellow.
No, it's not mellow. Well, I don't think you can do mellow. I just offered you mellow. You didn't take it.
No, I'm looking for it. If you could find me a really sweet remember My Dinner with Andre? Did you ever see that?
Oh, that would be, just
three guys talking.
A camera on a
2 guys
dinner
talking.
table.
And
you should ask Jason Reitman for one of his rejected indie scripts and just grab one of those, just crank it out in 6 weeks.
Sometimes
like Austin.
Those movies end up being harder than anything. I was just reading a story about Spike Jonze filming a scene from Her, where they were in some foreign country. I think it was either Russia or China at a train station, and they had Joaquin Phoenix stealing a shot on a train, and they put Spike Jonze on a skateboard, and they were all getting chased by either Russian or Chinese or both authorities, and Like they all came very close to going to prison. I mean, every film has its own unique
challenges.
Yeah, set of insane challenges. So you think it's going to be easy, but for like Lone Survivor, I will say, like for the 3 women that worked on that set, all of whom have had their marriages horrifically destroyed as a result of being on Lone Survivor, it was 150 men, the most macho film crew you can imagine, 20 Navy SEALs always on the set, and it was just big, hairy men and 3 women. And I do say that, like, the next film I do should be like, I'm trying to figure out like a Victoria's Secret fashion shoot on a yacht.
Crossed with the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Well, I was going to say maybe Jason Bourne has to go onto the boat, but it just seems like I deserve a film that has at least a woman in it.
Get in on the Taken franchise. Taken 4.
Yeah.
One of the best franchises going right now.
I guess they are going to do it.
You never had a daughter, though. So if you have a daughter, the Taken movie.
But what can they take? They took his daughter. They took him.
Right.
And his wife.
Now they take him and his daughter. No, they take the daughter again. I think she's due for another kid.
She's going to get taken again?
Retaken.
Really bad luck. This girl's got horrible luck.
Tell me about the response to your HBO documentary series. You tackled the world of youth parent culture, and which is a world that is not tapped into enough. We've talked about this. I'm now in this world with my daughter.
I have never had reaction to anything I've ever done, like this little documentary that we did for HBO.
Really?
Never. And it I was at my son's lacrosse practice in Santa Monica last night, and it's interesting because it's called Trophy Kids, and I encourage everyone to watch it. It's quite good. I didn't direct it. It was directed by a very talented man named Chris Bell, who brought it to me, and we kind of helped re-edit it a bit. But it was his idea, and he went and did all the groundwork and found these parents who, are shockingly willing to allow access that people just can't believe that we were given access to. And
you had 4 parents. You had the little girl's golf daddy.
Dad, yes.
You had the guy who wanted to turn his son into a great football player.
Yeah.
He was probably the most psychotic.
Modern day football high school program. Yep.
Yeah. Then you had the God-loving mom of the tennis twins. And then the lunatic basketball dad, who almost didn't even seem like a totally real person to me.
Right, and if you see the movie, there's another basketball dad who I actually think is by far the most evil of all of them. It's a bit more of a slow burn, and we couldn't quite his obsession was a bit quieter, but very, very dark. And there's a whole storyline where he actually orchestrates this coup to get the high school basketball coach fired, and he does get him fired. But I've had people. I've been traveling a lot, so to airports and planes, but going to my son's lacrosse games and practice, and also we went and looked at another school last week, and I've had more parents coming up to me. And it's interesting, wanting to talk about the show, but oftentimes wanting to just confess to me, we did a little of this, but we stopped. Or I just want to make it very clear that I am not like these parents at all. And I'm just kind of receiving it all. But I think one of the things that was so interesting about that show is those parents are very extreme. The parents in Trophy Kids are
they're the ultimate extremes.
Yes, they're out of control. If they're not the ultimate, we had Todd Marinovich on our on a panel afterwards, and his dad was certainly up there with the extreme. They started training Todd at 3 days old. He started being trained. His dad was stretching him in the crib at 3 days old. But you can, as any parent that I know, myself included, who's got a kid that plays these sports, can at times feel internal struggles. You can get nervous. You can get frustrated. If you see your kid demonstrating what appears to be a lack of effort out there or failing, it tends to bring up complicated psychological issues in all of us. And that's what I thought was really cool about this documentary. You don't have to be that crazy to recognize maybe just a little bit of it in yourself. And
hell yeah.
It truly, and I don't say this about anything I've ever worked in. Being a part of this has changed the way I parent. Like, it really has changed the way I parent.
I got to say, it had a dramatic effect on the way I parent.
Yeah.
Because I saw it at a great time for me because my daughter's in this club soccer team, and it made me was one of the things that made me realize like that it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun enough for her because I kept putting on pressure for her to be, like, hey, come on, you're one of the best ones. The team's counting on you. Like, that stuff doesn't work with kids, especially when they're younger like that. They just want to go out and have fun.
And if you interview, like, I was talking to, I did an interview with LaDainian Tomlinson about trophy kids. And he was asking me questions, and I was like, well, what was your childhood like? You never thought of, he was obviously a superstar, Hall of Famer, and an incredible football player. And he paused. He said, well, it was my mom and dad, and they just let me do whatever I wanted. And there was never any pressure.
Right.
And if anything, the pressure was to not be so intense.
Yep.
That I put so much pressure on myself. And I asked Strahan the same question. Michael Strahan, he never played football till he was 13. His parents just didn't like the sport. He was raised in Germany, and they wanted him to play soccer.
Right.
He came to it. And, I can go forever on this issue. It just, I think, I was at Loyola High School 2 days ago taking a tour, Loyola's a very good, very, very good private school in Los Angeles. It's got a phenomenal athletic program, very good academics. And it's, there's schools like Loyola now all over the country, but they represent, real strong, legitimate athletic high schools. And I was talking to, my son plays a little football, and my son plays lacrosse, and he's not going to play D1 in either. I would be very surprised if he ever did, but he enjoys those sports.
Yep.
And I asked the captain of the Loyola lacrosse team, I'm like, well, how many kids play football and lacrosse at your school? He looked at me like I was crazy, and he said, well, there's just really one. It's me. And he goes, I'm the only one. Everybody else either plays football or you play lacrosse.
They specialize.
Or you play basketball, or you play soccer, or you play baseball. There's no more two-sport athletes. If there are,
that's ridiculous.
And it's crazy, and it's really starting in junior high school. It's
starting when 8 and 9 years old.
Okay, well, this is, I think, insanity, and my son is falling behind in his lacrosse skills in 8th grade because he dares to play a little football instead of being in a lacrosse club team, and instead of having private lacrosse coaches working on his stick skills, he's doing two sports. And I've had parents look at me like I'm crazy for allowing my son to fall behind in 8th grade in his lacrosse, and I'm thinking you're insane.
The Olympics?
Pardon me?
If he's going to be in the Olympics?
They don't even have lacrosse in the Olympics. I'm like, you all are insane. You realize everybody has gone freaking nuts.
I've told this story on the podcast, but not to you, so I'm rerunning it.
Okay.
So I met Abby Wambach and Alex Morgan at this event at the ESPYs. And they're the two best soccer players in the world. Abby Wambach's probably the greatest female American soccer player ever. Alex Morgan is the best one right now.
Yeah.
So I was asking them, when did they start playing soccer? When did they start how did their whole process go? And both of them said the same thing. Don't have her play one sport, meaning my daughter. Have her play, like Abby Wambach was like, I played 3 sports till I was 15. And Alex Morgan said the same thing. Abby Wambach's great at headers, and she said the reason she was good at headers was because she played basketball through high school.
Yeah.
And she was used to looking up and getting the rebounds. And she was like, just have them have fun and play as many sports as possible. Like, that's what we did. So what does that tell you?
No, it's crazy. I mean, I was talking to Todd Marinovich about my memories of playing football as a 6th grader were in Chappaqua, New York, where I grew up. We would go to Michael Morgan's house, and he had this big yard with like rocks and trees and stumps, and we would play tackle football, like with no equipment, and there were dogs, and no one knew whose dogs these were, that would come out like of the woods. Yeah, and they'd bite you and attack you, and you have to kind of fight the dogs off, and you'd be hitting rocks, and people just get into wicked fist fights and screaming and crying.
This in the 1800s? When was it?
No, this was like in the late 70s in Chappaqua. I mean, these were great games and fun, and we would fight, and I'd be like, I hate you, Mike Morgan, forever. I hate you forever. And then 2 days later, we'd be playing again. And I think I developed a certain amount of agility, like dodging the dogs, being able to run around rocks and trees, playing tackle football with, and you don't get that experience anymore. And you look at like, did you see the game? I think it was like 2 weeks ago, Philadelphia game in the snow.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was watching it with my son. I'm like, this. I mean, look at this. These guys are actually, I dare say, I think they're having fun.
Right. Except for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, Stafford, but certainly.
We've never seen snow before.
Yeah. Who's the running back for Philly? McCoy.
LaShawn McCoy. He was great.
How much fun was he having?
Yeah.
And I said, when's the last time you saw an athlete having fun or even appear to have fun?
Do you think they should bring snow into the Giants games for Eli?
Oh man, no, that would hurt Eli.
Is there any way to save Eli at this point?
They should put a dome on the Giants stadium to take all weather out of it.
Where do the Giants fans stand with Eli at this point? He won you 2 Super Bowls, but now he's fallen off a cliff.
We'll give him.
What kind of loyalty does he get?
No, he gets loyalty because of the 2 Super Bowls. Everybody on the Giants has, I hate to say it, 2 more years of loyalty.
2 more years.
You can't.
Nice grace period.
You can't overestimate we got 2 Super Bowls.
I've written about the 5-year grace period.
Yeah, I think you've got 2. I think Eli gets 2 more years. I think Gilbride, Coughlin.
Gilbride should be done. His loyalty card should be.
But he won't be. He won't be. There will be no changes.
When I can figure out your plays from my couch, that's probably a bad sign.
We've got a 12-second, what they call a 12-second handoff.
Yeah.
Where you put your running back 35 feet behind the quarterback.
He's just running.
The quarterback takes a snap, not in the shotgun.
Yeah.
Extends his arms, and it takes 12 seconds.
Like this.
Yeah. It takes 12 seconds for Ahmad Bradshaw for Brown it takes, for Wilson.
Gilbride almost cost you the 2nd Super Bowl. We should have beaten you in that Super Bowl. You deservedly won the first one. You outplayed us. And the second one, we gave that game away. The Giants didn't even play well.
The Giants will get 2 more years, and then, the interesting story is what is going to happen in Washington. I mean, that's a city about, that.
They're going to fire the coach, right?
Well, it's just an absolute disaster. And to think that you just keep sliding and you don't get that draft pick.
It's unbelievable.
It's insane.
There's so many teams right now because in basketball, the Knicks and the Nets don't have their draft picks either. And it looks like potentially they could be having these bad seasons. And in the past, it's always like, well, at least we have the draft pick. When you don't have the draft pick, it's
brutal.
Pretty depressing. Hey, speaking of depressing, Canelo.
Yes.
Yeah, he got kind of wiped out by Floyd.
Who's your writer that I was cursing out on the way to the fight that wrote the article?
Jay Caspian Kang.
What's his name?
Jay Caspian Kang.
A very smart man.
Yeah.
He was very right.
You thought he didn't think he gave Canelo enough credit.
I thought he was wrong and he was right.
Well, we learned a valuable lesson, though. When Floyd cares, nobody's beating him.
No, we didn't learn that.
We didn't learn that?
No.
Are you sure we didn't learn that?
No, we didn't learn that lesson at all. I mean, first of all, that wasn't a fight.
What was it?
That was a non-fight. That was the avoidance of a fight. That was one fighter literally being able to run away from another fighter and occasionally tap him with obnoxious blows.
I like what you're doing. I know why you're doing it, but I like it.
But that was many things.
Okay.
That was not a fight.
Right.
Canelo Alvarez needed a much, much better plan and, did not I have to be careful what I say here. But Canelo Alvarez...
There was a level of urgency that he didn't have.
Canelo Alvarez was not properly prepared for that non-fight. If that makes sense.
Well, the guy who beat Broner, I don't know if you saw that fight.
Yeah, whooped his ass last week. Yeah, Broner got beat up.
There was a desperation to that guy from the moment the fight started where it was just, you could tell he's like, I have a chance to change my life if I win this fight. And I'm going to do everything I can to knock this guy down.
Right, and so
he beat Broner.
If you look at what your guy said in his article, your guy really wrote a great article about Canelo. He was not ready for that experience. The entire experience was too big for him. And what was interesting was that there was no course correction. Round 4, there should have been a course correction. If you look at how Ricky Hatton fought Floyd Mayweather, now Ricky Hatton is half the fighter Canelo is, and certainly not nearly as strong and I think he got knocked out in the 8th or the 9th round by Mayweather, but he attacked him. He made it ugly. Shane Mosley made it ugly. You cannot allow Floyd Mayweather to go into his incredible defensive posture, hit and run, and dance all around the ring. You literally have to grab him, you have to headbutt him, you have to kick him, you have to bite him, you have to take the penalty.
He did it that one time. Remember, he cheap shotted him on the arm, and Floyd was like,
it was a
that was smart though.
But it was a weak cheap shot.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally we have fighters at our gym who are like, look, you have to if Floyd Mayweather is if you want to win. If you really actually, beating Floyd Mayweather is your goal, granted it's a very difficult goal and Floyd's very good at it, really the only shot you have is to make it a fight, like a street fight. You've got to be vicious and ugly and sloppy and raw and be willing to get disqualified. Literally, well, if you want to beat Floyd Mayweather.
You should punch him in the balls at least twice.
100%. And
it's a terrible thing to say, but that's what you have to do against Floyd Mayweather.
100%. You do whatever. You certainly grab him and hold him and throw him around.
Yeah.
And if
you frustrate him, you take him out of his fight, you make him mad, you make this part of his body hurt, you punch his leg accidentally.
But if you allow him to be Floyd Mayweather and you chase him around the ring, you're going to experience. And I mean, really, watch that fight on YouTube. It's a non-fight.
Well, it's a little like what the Giants did to the 07 Pats, right? Just smash mouth.
Yeah, that's
they just beat up Brady.
That's right.
Beat him up. Came after him and knocked him down and did everything they could to knock him out of what he was comfortable doing. And that's what you have to do with Floyd. And anybody who's ever come close to them has done that. And I was disappointed in your guy. I thought he was going to. Maybe you're right. Maybe the whole stage was too big for him at this point of his life.
I think it was, and I think that you get your 22 years old. Oscar had some problems and had to go into rehab a week before the fight. And, I wish Oscar De La Hoya all the best. He's a great man. That couldn't have helped. That his mentor, the guy that was going to really help get him through that fight, had some medical issues and had to check out. We saw him before the fight. He just looked as though he was not grounded. He didn't realize quite what he was in for. It reminded me a bit of the governor of Texas when he had to debate for the first time, Perry.
Oh yeah,
remember Perry's debate and Rick Perry, and he just got. And I met Rick Perry before. He's a decent guy, and he's a good friend of Marcus Luttrell's. I actually like him, and not quite in sync with all of his politics, but I do like a lot about him, and he's a nice guy and a very articulate. He thought he was going to just waltz right through the presidential. Everybody thought he was going to win. Remember, he was a front runner for a minute, and he had to actually get up there and debate, and he got the shit whooped out of him. And so I
do wonder sometimes though that any time anything big like that happens to somebody under 24, you never know how it's going to go.
Whether he'll be able to come back.
Just not even a comeback. Like it's just a lot to put on somebody, and some people can handle it, some can't. LeBron can handle
RG3, the same thing.
RG3 is a good example.
I look at Canelo or RG3 and
look at Shia LaBeouf.
No,
I mean seriously.
Do I have to?
You
I don't want to. I'm not going to.
Dwight Gooden.
Dwight Gooden. Okay. Matt Leinart. Okay.
I don't think it's great to be famous before you're 22.
If you had told me, I was at the college national championship game when Texas beat USC, when Vince Young ran it in with
soon to be a 30 for 30. Oh yeah.
The aftermath.
College, you could have done it.
Is it the aftermath or is it that game?
I don't want to spoil it.
It's a good 30 for 30.
Yeah. What do you care?
I've got my own. I'm trying. I'm a competitor of yours.
It's your competitor. I'm the other channel
now. If you had told me that Vince Young and Matt Leinart were going to be out of football,
it's amazing.
I would tell you were insane and you were on multiple drugs, and I would help you find treatment. And
it's amazing.
And look, you tell me that Robert RG3 might not play football. Who knows what's going to happen to RG3?
Well, now at least he has the excuse of he got the injury and lost confidence, and it's in a way like. I still don't know what happened to Vince Young. It doesn't make sense. Vince Young was like larger than life.
So was Matt Leinart.
Yeah. Leinart, I thought at least would be like a game manager, coolest guy in the room guy.
Well, Matt Leinart had the horrible luck that like every time he'd start to come back, he'd get hurt. You know, he was, I think the last time he broke his collarbone when he was playing for the Cardinals, and he was actually leading them down the field on a drive, and it looked good for a second. And then, you know, some of it's bad luck, but you know, in this goes all the way back to like these parents who are crazy thinking their kids are going to be football stars. The amount of competition out there now, the amount of kids ready to take your job the second you slip.
Unless you're a punter. There's nobody ready to take your job if you're a punter. There's only we only produce 11 punters per 20 years for some reason, and 9 field goal kickers.
You saw a punter break his jaw last week?
That was horrible.
It's kind of awesome, though, that he took it and he like walked off the field and chewing on a bloody towel.
That was horrible.
I thought he was a badass.
It's weird that doesn't happen more often.
People don't just lay out the punters?
Yeah, because anytime like a kick, when the guy starts running across the field, it just seems like you get a free shot at anybody in the plane.
I don't think punters generally. That guy seemed to. I have to look. I never looked at that play, but it seemed like that punter kind of. There's an unwritten rule. If the punter kind of stays back and stays out of it, he's going to be. But once that punter decides to start, getting athletic, making a few athletic moves, heading anywhere near the ball. I would think if I was like kind of a bored second teams player, special teams player,
it's a free shot.
Yeah, kill the punter. I mean, but yeah, that was to see what happens to young athletes today, like Canelo Alvarez, like Robert Griffin, who are obviously very talented guys. I really do wish them the best. I hope they have huge careers. But the pressure and the hype that, RG3 comes out and he signs his Gatorade endorsement and his Adidas endorsement, and, he's given his own office next to Shanahan's, metaphorically, and all this pressure is put on him.
The enabling wasn't great. That's one of the lessons we've learned over the years, is enabling with young people.
It's not great, and if you're Saul Alvarez and you don't have people in your life who can say, yo, don't do that. Do this. If it's and everyone's just enabling you, allowing you.
Think about Brady, Rodgers, and Breeze, 3 guys who, at some point between the ages of 23 and 26, were told that they weren't good enough, and gave them some sort of weird drive that they didn't have. I mean, Peyton, out of the elite quarterbacks, is the only one that really was handed that stuff and was the number 1 pick, and everybody said he was great and actually lived up to it.
We get
Andrew Luck's like that too. He'll be the next guy.
We get to make an analogy to our business. I have a production company, film production company, and we get interns now all the time, and we get film grad students from USC and UCLA and AFI and NYU and the premier film schools in the world, and I'll go up to interns and say, hey, what do you want to do? What's your plan? Oh, I want to make movies. I'm ready to make movies. I'm like, you're ready now to make movies? How old are you? Well, I'm 18. I'm like, really? So you just want to just get right into it and make movies? And they're like, yep. And I'm like, well, what do you have to say? Why? Like, you're 18 years old, you've been in film school, you've absolutely no adversity in your life, you've had no real life experience. What stories are you going to tell that there's going to be a general popular appetite for? And you see it a lot. These kids just come out and they just want to be telling stories and making films. And
so the kid says, in high school, I had an affair with my math teacher. Oh, there's a story.
That's right.
Okay, we'll tell that one.
And then maybe they get that one story out.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And the pressure on, I just looked at the hype around Andrew Luck and Robert and the draft and this and that, and all the, trading away teams' futures and putting all this pressure on young athletes, and then it doesn't work out. And then, where's Vince Young going to be in 2 years?
And the guys in college right now for hoops, it's like the best NBA draft potentially in 29
coming out this year.
Yeah, all these guys, it's just loaded, and that's going to be interesting too, because I'm not positive any of them are on that level that LeBron and Durant were at that age, and but they're being treated like they are. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then in the era of social media, you're only as good as you were 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's crazy. Who's a comparable burnout in basketball to like the liner Vin Chung? Who?
Oh, there's been a lot. I mean, a lot of the times it's injury and stuff, but, Greg Oden, I think, is a good example. Michael Beasley.
And where are those guys now, literally?
Trying to get their careers back together. There's been a lot of them. Usually NBA is more usually injury related when the guys burn out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's been the generation that got screwed up were the 90s guys because they all got paid too much too soon. So guys like Kenny Anderson and Derek Coleman, they're making $10 million a year and they're 20, and that's not good. That's what we saw with Shia. Shia could have been in Lone Survivor. He could have been the lead. We'll never know. He went off the rails.
No, I actually talked to Shia about playing a role in Lone Survivor.
It could have been the Emil Hirsch role.
I talked to him about that. He told me he didn't feel it. Pissed me off.
Didn't feel it? What does that mean?
That pissed me off.
What did he not feel? A good role?
I don't know. But that was people make choices.
Yeah.
And, I often think that success is a product, and especially in our business, of not making the catastrophic mistake.
Yeah.
And sometimes allowing, just return the ball. Allow them to make unforced errors.
Well, what did you think of Affleck deciding to be Batman? I loved it. A lot of people didn't like it, but I liked it because he was already having the greatest comeback, of this generation, and was like, screw it. I'm going all the way. I'm going to try to be Batman. I'm going for the Game 7 homer.
I'm a huge Ben Affleck fan, so he just hosted a Q&A very graciously of Lone Survivor for us, and Ben clearly knows what he's doing, and I don't know enough about the film to know what the details are and I don't know what the script is.
It's a very political answer.
I really don't. I don't know what the tone of the film is. So if you'd asked me Christian Bale as Batman, I probably wouldn't have been able to. I certainly wouldn't have, in a vacuum, understood what Christopher Nolan's vision for that was. I thought Ben was really good in Argo, and
it's been a good comeback.
Ben's back.
We're adding him to the list of Boston titles that we've won.
Yeah,
Ben Affleck's comeback.
Ben is back.
One of our titles.
He's back.
Hey, it's not back. Friday Night Lights. It's over.
How do you feel about that?
You said it's done. I liked what Reagan said. Reagan's was like, it. We already did it. We did a great movie.
Do you know what Reagan's real name is?
Of course I know what it is.
All right, don't tell me. I don't want to hear you say it. I don't want to hear you say it. I love that you only call him Reagan.
He's Reagan.
You ever met him?
One of the great characters ever. Yeah, you introduced me to him once. Nice guy. Canadian.
Yeah.
All the Canadians are solid.
Such a great guy.
But
what was his reason for no?
He said the movie was great. The show was good. Ended on a really good episode. Like, why keep doing it?
It does seem like, yes. And that I was excited to try and do it.
Do the Michael B. Jordan thing. These Detroit hoops.
Well, you can't. Michael B. Jordan's going to be the Denzel of his generation.
I know but you had your hooks in from way back.
He owes me. He owes me.
He owes you. That's your dude. Right up the ladder with him.
He's good. I don't think there'll be a Friday Night Lights movie, and I think we're all okay with that.
I'm okay with it.
Good, because you were one of the. God, you've been such a big supporter of our show. I mean, early on.
So the potential of it not being great is scary. Like you know how you ended it. You know what you have. You know what you have in the left hand, and now it's like, oh, the right hand could be good, but it's.
Sometimes it really bothers me that like the movie's been completely overshadowed by the TV show.
It's on cable all the time.
I know, but nobody cares about the movie. It's like. Good movie. Billy Bob Thornton did a great job.
It's a really good movie.
The actors, Lucas Black and Garrett Hedlund and Connie Britton. I mean, they were all did a great job in that film.
You know what happened though is the Netflix, iTunes, rehash syndication era. A lot of people, even who didn't watch the series when you were trying to save the series,
they've all caught up.
People have caught up now. I know people who are still like watching and like, hey, how about this Friday Night Lights? Have you seen the show? It's like, yeah, I've seen it. I know.
It really is. We've got a new medium for watching content now. The Netflix binge experience, and it takes you into the experience much more deeply. So I had people coming up to me hysterical, and they've got this crazy look in their eye. I mean, I had it in Miami 2 days ago at an airport. A woman charging after me, and she had her holding her computer, and she was trembling, and she had this look in her eye, and she just was sputtering something about Tammy Taylor, and she was in the middle of like a 30-episode binge, and I'm like, okay, you need to drink some water,
right?
And you need to turn the computer off for about 2 hours.
It's a good binge show. Out we gotta go. That was the knock on the door.
This is the best show.
So we keep going until somebody knocks on the door.
The best show.
And I like that you spread your hosting wings on this HBO show, but I still think we need a Table for Five come back.
Will you be a guest on my show?
Which one?
On State of Play.
Of course. Right. What would the topic be, though?
We're figuring it out. Would you direct one?
That makes me nervous.
Would you direct one for me? I directed one for you. Would you direct one for me?
Do that.
I would let you do it.
They have me hook, line, and I'm not even allowed to watch
inclusion. HBO. One world, one love.
I consider something. Table for Five should come back, though.
That's Favreau's thing.
I know, but you were on it all the time. You told great stories.
That's Favreau.
You were only on twice?
Just twice, but I talked I'm embarrassed. I watched the one that I was on. I talked like 80% of the time.
Well, you had like probably 9 glasses of wine. They're pouring wine down your throat.
They got me hammered. But it was like, we had Paul Rudd was there. And
it's great people were on that show.
It's a great one.
It's a good one. It should come back. All right, Lone Survivor, December 24th, New York and Los Angeles.
January 10th.
And then National, January 10th. I've looked at the Oscars. You have a really good chance. I don't want to jinx it, but
thanks, buddy.
There's 10 movies. You doubled your odds. I'm excited. Good to have you out with a movie. I loved it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the BS Report. And next time we talk Canelo, what's the next Canelo fight?
I don't know. It might be you. He doesn't have an opponent.
Target percent off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Podcenter at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.